My sister called while my husband was showering and whispered, "Are you alone?" Then she sent me photos taken inside our bathroom. He cried, "I'm being blackmailed." I believed him until I checked our house account. I protected what was left. That morning had started normally. I was making coffee while Ryan showered. We had both overslept, and he had already called through the bathroom door asking whether I had seen his keys. Then my phone rang. It was my younger sister, Emily. She usually texted unless something was urgent, so I answered immediately. "Hey, what's wrong?" She hesitated before asking, "Are you alone?" I looked toward the hallway. The shower was still running. "Ryan's getting ready." "Why? Are you two okay?" Her question irritated me because she sounded like she was trying to avoid saying something. "We're fine. Just tell me." Emily said an empty Instagram account had messaged her late the night before. The profile had no picture, almost no activity, and a username made from random letters and numbers. She assumed it was spam until she opened the first attachment. It was a photograph of Ryan standing shirtless in front of our bathroom mirror. His phone covered part of his face, but his wedding ring was clearly visible. There were more photographs beneath it, along with screenshots of sexual messages between him and someone using the name Mia. Emily apologized before forwarding everything. For a few seconds, my mind searched for an explanation. Maybe the pictures were old. Maybe someone had edited the messages or stolen them from an account he used before we met. Then I noticed the dark blue towel hanging behind him. I had bought this set earlier that year. The mirror also had a small crack in the lower corner where Ryan had hit it with a medicine cabinet door. The photographs had been taken inside our apartment. The shower stopped. I stood in the kitchen staring at my phone while the coffee maker finished behind me. Ryan walked in carrying his shirt. He was smiling until he saw my face. "What happened?" I turned the screen toward him. His expression collapsed. He didn't ask where I got the pictures or pretend they weren't his. He sat down so quickly that the chair scraped across the floor. "Oh God. What is this?" He covered his face. "Ryan, what is this?" When he looked up, he was crying. "I'm being blackmailed." For a moment, that answer redirected my anger. He looked terrified, and whatever he had done, someone was threatening him and sending private images to people we knew. I sat beside him. Ryan said a woman had contacted him online, gained his trust, and convinced him to send photographs. Afterward, she threatened to distribute them to his family, friends, and coworkers unless he paid her. "I was scared," he said. "I didn't know what else to do." I believed that part. His hands were shaking so badly that he could barely unlock his phone. I told him we needed to contact the police, report the account, and save every message. Then I asked how the woman had found him. He said she contacted him through social media. "Which app?" He stared at the floor. "I don't remember exactly. We moved between a few." That didn't make sense. I asked to see his phone. Most of the earlier conversation had been deleted. Only the recent threats remained. When I pressed him, his story changed. First, he admitted that the photographs were recent. Then he claimed he had only responded because the woman seemed lonely and wanted someone to talk to. Finally, he told me the truth. He had downloaded a dating app 6 months earlier. He said he never intended to meet anyone. He had been feeling insecure and wanted to know whether other women still found him attractive. He matched with Mia about a month later, and their conversations became sexual within a week. "Did you tell her you were married?" "Yes." "And she didn't care?" "She said she wasn't looking for anything serious." Ryan kept saying they had never met in person, as if that preserved some important boundary. "You sent another woman pictures from our bathroom." "I know. While I was here?" His silence answered me. I remembered nights when he stayed in the bathroom longer than usual. I had assumed he was watching videos or scrolling through his phone. Some of those nights, I had been waiting for him in bed. Ryan said he tried to end the conversation when Mia started asking for money. That was when she revealed that she had saved his photographs and found his social media accounts, workplace, relatives, and friends. Her first demand was $500. He paid it. A few days later, she demanded more. Each payment bought him a brief silence before another threat arrived. Sometimes she promised to delete the pictures. Other times she claimed another person was involved and needed to be paid too. He knew it was a scam, but every threat included the names of people she planned to contact. I asked how much he had sent. He rubbed his hands over his face. "I don't know exactly. That was when I thought about our house savings. We had spent nearly 5 years building that account. Automatic transfers came from both our paychecks, and I added more whenever I could. We skipped vacations, kept old furniture, and delayed replacing my unreliable car because we wanted a strong down payment. The balance had reached $42,000. I opened the banking app. Ryan reached toward my phone. Natalie, wait. The account showed $5,300. I refreshed the page, convinced there had to be a mistake. Then I opened the transaction history. There were dozens of transfers made over 4 months through payment apps and cryptocurrency exchanges. They began with smaller amounts and gradually grew into thousands. Together, they totaled $36,700. That money wasn't spare cash. More than half of it had come directly from me. You gave her our house deposit? I was going to replace it. With what? Ryan said he had applied for 2 personal loans. One application had been rejected, and he abandoned the other after seeing the interest rate. He had also considered borrowing from his parents without telling them why. He thought he could rebuild the account before we were ready to buy. That explanation made everything worse. We had still been looking at houses. Ryan sent me listings, discussed neighborhoods, and talked about whether we needed a second bathroom. A week earlier, he had suggested increasing our monthly transfer because prices were rising. He had encouraged me to save more while secretly removing the money. I asked whether he ever planned to tell me. He said yes, but he couldn't say when. If Emily hadn't received those photographs, he would have continued lying. I called the bank while Ryan sat across from me. Because he was a joint owner and had authorized the transactions himself, they couldn't simply return the money. The representative marked the account as disputed, placed a temporary restriction on large transfers, and advised me to seek legal protection for the remaining balance. Ryan kept apologizing, but I could barely process his words. I called Emily and asked whether I could stay with her. Ryan stood up. You're leaving. I need to get away from you. Please don't do this right now. He said he was terrified that more people would receive the images. He thought he might lose his job and wanted me beside him when he spoke to the police. I told him I would cooperate with the investigation, but I couldn't comfort him while I was still discovering the extent of his betrayal. He called his parents before I finished packing. Patricia and Gregory arrived that evening. Ryan must have told them mostly about the blackmail because Patricia rushed toward him and held him as if he had survived an attack. Then she looked at my bag. Where are you going? I told them about the dating app and the missing money. Patricia's expression changed, but she continued defending him. He made a terrible mistake, but someone is exploiting him. Gregory asked everyone to sit down and wait until emotions settled. I said there was nothing calm about discovering that most of my savings were gone. Patricia told me Ryan was in a dangerous emotional state and that this wasn't the time to punish him with permanent decisions. I'm not punishing him. I'm protecting myself. He is the victim here. I understand that he is a victim of blackmail. Then act like his wife. I looked at Ryan. He sat on the couch with his head down while his mother spoke for him. Someone is committing a crime against him, I said. That doesn't erase what he did to me. Patricia crossed her arms. Those things are not equal. You're right. The blackmailer never promised to love me. No one answered. Ryan followed me into the hallway and asked whether I was coming back. I told him I didn't know. He reached for my hand, but I stepped away. As I walked toward my car, Emily sent another message. The anonymous account had contacted one of Ryan's coworkers and my mother. My mother called soon after. I expected questions, but she only asked whether I was safe and whether I needed somewhere to stay. She had deleted the message without forwarding it and promised not to discuss the photographs with anyone. Her restraint was the first kindness I had felt all day. I drove to Emily's place without turning on the radio. She was waiting outside when I arrived. She took my bag and waited until we were inside before asking what happened. When I told her how much money was gone, she went quiet. Then she asked, "Are you safe financially?" I wasn't sure. Our regular bills came from another joint account, and we both had separate credit cards. I didn't know whether Ryan had borrowed money under my name or opened accounts I hadn't seen. The next morning, I checked my credit report. There were no unfamiliar loans or cards, but I changed every password and redirected my paycheck into a new account. I also contacted an attorney named Teresa. She told me to preserve every message and statement, avoid public accusations, and not agree to cover any debt Ryan had created on his own. Because the missing money came from a joint account, recovery through the bank would be difficult. However, his use of shared assets to conceal activity outside the marriage could still matter during separation. It wasn't a promise that I would get the money back, but it confirmed that his choices had legal consequences beyond the scam. Ryan sent messages constantly during the first few days. He apologized, then tried to explain why it happened. He said we had become too focused on saving and stopped enjoying our lives. He felt rejected whenever I was tired or distracted. He never openly blamed me, but he kept placing pieces of responsibility close enough that I could see them. I responded only when the message involved the police, the apartment, or our finances. A cybercrime investigator named Caleb contacted us after Ryan filed a report. He requested screenshots, payment records, usernames, email addresses, and every detail connected to Mia. Caleb warned us that Mia might not be a real person. The profile could have been controlled by one scammer or a group, and the photographs might belong to an unrelated woman. Ryan had spent months imagining that a specific person understood him before betraying him. Learning that she might never have existed seemed to break something in him. The investigation didn't stop the images from spreading. Several coworkers received them, along with an old friend and one of his cousins. Ryan took medical leave and moved in with his parents. Patricia called to say he wasn't eating properly and had started having panic attacks. Then she asked me to visit. I think seeing you would help him. I'm not the person who can do that anymore. He's still your husband. And I'm still the person whose savings he spent. She accused me of caring more about money than Ryan's well-being. But the loss wasn't only financial. For years, every sacrifice had felt mutual because I believed we were moving toward the same future. While I was protecting that future, Ryan was using it to protect his secret. One of my oldest friends, Diana, thought I should wait before making permanent decisions. She wasn't defending the dating profile, but she worried that leaving during Ryan's public humiliation would push him deeper into crisis. Another friend, Ashley, saw it differently. She said Ryan's crisis didn't begin when I left. It began when his choices became visible. Both of them had a point. Ryan had been exploited. What the blackmailer did was criminal and cruel. I asked my family not to share the photographs or use them to humiliate him. When someone made a joke in a group chat, I shut it down. I could protect his dignity without remaining his wife. A week after I left, Ryan asked to meet at a coffee shop. I agreed because I wanted a complete timeline before deciding what to do. He looked exhausted. He had lost weight, and his hands shook around his cup. Seeing him like that hurt. Anger didn't erase 7 years of caring about him. I told him I needed honest answers. Were there other women? He looked toward the window. There were conversations. How many? A few. Before Mia? Yes. Most of them ended after a day or two. He liked matching with women and receiving compliments. Sometimes he deleted the app and promised himself he was done, then downloaded it again. I asked whether he had sent pictures to anyone else. Nothing like what I sent Mia. I waited until he admitted that he had exchanged suggestive photographs with another woman, although his face wasn't visible. Did you ever plan to meet someone? He said he had considered it once but backed out. Why didn't you tell me when the blackmail started? Because I knew you would leave. That answer hurt more than another excuse. You knew this could end our marriage, but you kept paying because you thought hiding it would save you. I thought I could fix it. You were fixing your problem with my money. Our money, he said quietly. The correction escaped before he could stop it. I stared at him. That's not what I meant, he said. But it was. Ryan explained that every payment felt like the final one. After sending it, he would feel relieved for a day or two before the next demand arrived. Eventually, he stopped checking the full balance because seeing it made him panic. Then he mentioned the night he asked me to increase our monthly savings transfer. By then, more than $20,000 was already gone. He had wanted my larger contributions to rebuild the balance without raising suspicion. That was the moment my uncertainty ended. Until then, part of me had viewed the financial betrayal as panic under pressure. Asking me to contribute more had been calculated. He watched me sacrifice harder so he could maintain the lie. Ryan reached across the table. I love you. I moved my hand away. You loved having me there. You loved the life we were building. But you were willing to let me finance a secret that could destroy both of us. He asked me to wait 6 months before filing. He promised therapy, full access to his devices, and complete financial transparency. His parents had even offered to help replace some of the money if I stayed. I asked whether they knew about the other women. He said no. Patricia and Gregory believed their son had made one isolated mistake and fallen into a sophisticated trap. Ryan wanted me to help preserve that version of events. I refused. Before leaving, I told him I would cooperate with the investigation and would never blame him for the blackmailer's actions. Our marriage was ending because of what he had done before the threats began and everything he chose to hide afterward. I filed for legal separation 2 days later. Patricia sent me a message saying she hoped I could live with abandoning someone at his lowest point. I didn't respond. Teresa handled communication from then on. The remaining $5,300 stayed restricted until temporary financial orders were put in place. Ryan's loan applications had not created shared debt, and no unfamiliar accounts appeared under my name. During the first settlement discussion, his attorney described the missing money as funds lost to fraud. Teresa corrected him. The blackmail was fraud. Ryan's decision to use marital savings without my knowledge was a separate issue. Eventually, Ryan agreed that the missing money would be counted against his share of what remained between us. There wasn't enough to make me whole, but I kept the remaining savings and my car. The police investigation continued, though Caleb warned me that the transfers were unlikely to be recovered. Ryan remained with his parents and started therapy. A month after our coffee shop meeting, he sent me a shorter apology than the others. He wrote that he had spent too much time explaining his behavior because explanations made him feel less responsible. The blackmailer exposed him, but she hadn't created the profile, sent the photographs, or moved the money. For the first time, he didn't ask me to return. I believed that apology. It still didn't change my decision. When our lease ended, I moved into a smaller apartment. Starting over was less dramatic than people imagine. Most days involved changing mailing addresses, dividing subscriptions, signing documents, and discovering how many ordinary parts of my life included him. The hardest loss was still the house. I used to browse property listings every night. After the separation, I deleted every app because the photographs felt like windows into a future that no longer belonged to me. Then Ryan sent one final message. It contained a listing for a small house we had viewed shortly before everything came out. It had a narrow kitchen, an unfinished basement, and a tree in the backyard that leaned too close to the roof. We had loved it. The listing now showed that it had sold. Ryan wrote, "That was supposed to be us." I stared at the photograph before replying. It was supposed to be. I didn't add anything else. The account I opened after leaving now has a little over $6,000 in it. Before, that amount would have felt like proof that I was starting over from nothing. Now every dollar is accounted for. Ryan deserves support, therapy, and justice against the people who exploited him. I also believe I was allowed to stop being the person responsible for holding him together. Some people will always think I left when he needed me most. From where I stood, he had already left the marriage months before I packed my bag. He kept coming home because he believed I would never discover where he had gone. Was I cruel for ending the marriage while he was being blackmailed, or did everyone expect me to ignore his betrayal because his consequences became more public than mine?